The crystal chandeliers above the Ashford estate ballroom glittered like shattered stars, each facet catching light and throwing it across marble floors, slick enough to see your reflection. I watched mine ripple beneath polished black shoes as another alpha circled closer, his smile too wide, his pupils blown with want. They all looked at me like that now, like I was something holy, something rare, something they could own if they just tried hard enough. The Phoenix Omega, that's what they whispered when I entered the room. The myth made flesh, the impossible thing that shouldn't exist but did. Reborn from flame and ash, radiating a scent so intoxicating it made alphas forget their manners, and omegas forget their jealousy. I let them stare, let them wonder, let them want, because wanting was the first step to breaking. "You're even more breathtaking up close," the alpha in front of me murmured, his voice dripping with false charm as he leaned into my space. His cologne was expensive but suffocating. "They say your scent is like wildfire and silk." I had to know if it was true. I smiled politely, the same practice curve I'd perfected over 6 months of preparation for this exact moment. Soft, demure, untouchable. "You're very kind," I said, my voice barely above a whisper, the kind of tone that made alphas lean closer just to hear me breathe. He did exactly that. "Dance with me," he pressed, his hand reaching for my wrist before I'd even answered. "Just one. Let me—" "I'm afraid I'll have to decline." The words were gentle. My smile didn't waver, but his grip tightened. "You've been declining everyone all night," he said, and something darker bled into his tone. Entitlement, anger simmering beneath civility. "Do you think you're too good for us? Too rare to be touched?" My pulse kicked, but I kept my expression serene. Around us, conversations continued. Laughter echoed, glasses clinked. No one was paying attention yet. "I simply prefer to choose my own company," I replied evenly. His fingers dug into my wrist hard enough to bruise. "Then choose me." "Let go," I said quietly. "Make me." The room shifted. Conversations faltered. Eyes turned our direction, and then the air changed. It wasn't a sound, it was a presence. A weight that pressed down on the entire ballroom like gravity doubling in an instant. Every alpha in the room went rigid. Every omega's breath hitched. I knew that scent. Cedarwood in winter rain. Sharp, commanding, unmistakable. The Ashford twins. "I suggest," a voice cut through the silence like a blade, "you remove your hand before I remove it for you." Drace Ashford stood 3 feet away, his expression carved from stone and barely restrained violence. Tall, broad-shouldered, with dark hair that fell across eyes the color of storm clouds. His twin brother Kieran appeared at his side a heartbeat later, identical in build but different in presence. Where Drace radiated cold fury, Kieran burned with controlled heat, his jaw tight and his gaze locked on the alpha's hand, still circling my wrist. The alpha paled. His fingers went slack. I pulled my arm free and stepped back, cradling my wrist against my chest as my heart slammed against my ribs. Drace moved forward with the kind of lethal grace that made grown alphas flinch. He didn't touch the other alpha. He didn't have to. His presence alone was a threat. "Apologize," Drace said softly, dangerously. The alpha stammered something unintelligible and backed away, disappearing into the crowd before anyone could blink. Silence stretched across the ballroom like a held breath. Then Kieran turned to me, and his expression softened in a way that made something twist painfully in my chest. "Are you hurt?" he asked, his voice low and edged with concern that felt too real to be performance. I shook my head. "I'm fine." Drace's gaze dragged over me slowly, assessing. "You didn't have to deal with that." Before I could respond, he turned to face the room. The entire ballroom. Every pair of eyes watching, waiting. "Let me make something clear," Drace announced, his voice carrying across marble and crystal without strain. "This Omega is under our protection. Anyone who approaches him without respect will answer to us." Whispers erupted like wildfire. Kieran stepped closer, close enough that his scent wrapped around me like a second skin. And to make our intentions unmistakable, he dropped to one knee. My breath stopped. Drace followed, lowering himself with the same deliberate grace, his eyes never leaving mine. "We formally request the honor of courting you," Kieran said, his voice steady and devastatingly sincere. "Exclusively, publicly, with the intention of a bonding claim." The ballroom exploded into shocked murmurs. My mind screamed at me to refuse, to spit in their faces, to tell everyone exactly who these alphas really were. But revenge required patience. So my lips curved into a soft, trembling smile. "Yes," I whispered. The crowd erupted. The twins rose and Drace extended his hand. I placed mine in his, feeling his warmth seep into my skin as Kieran moved to my other side. Their scents surrounded me completely now, cedarwood and winter rain mixing with smoke and wildfire, until I couldn't tell where one ended and another began. My body responded without permission. A pull, a recognition, something primal that made my instincts hum with dangerous awareness. I hated it. They escorted me through the parting crowd, every eye tracking our movement, every whisper feeding the legend of the Phoenix Omega, claimed by the Ashford heirs. As we walked, Drace's thumb brushed across my knuckles. Such a small gesture, gentle, protective, and that's when the memories came flooding back. 6 months ago, I wasn't this. I was nobody, just another Omega working late shifts at a shipping warehouse on the edge of the city, trying to save enough money to afford decent suppressants. I'd stumbled into the wrong section that night, saw something I shouldn't have. Crates marked with the Ashford family crest being loaded with illegal weapons, falsified documents, things that could destroy their empire if exposed. I tried to run. They caught me. I don't know who gave the order. I never saw their faces clearly through the smoke. But I heard the name Ashford shouted across the warehouse floor, heard the accelerant splash across wooden beams, saw the crest stamped on every container before the flames swallowed everything. I burned alive that night, died choking on smoke and agony, my skin blistering, my voice gone from screaming. And 3 days later I woke up, not in a hospital, not in a morgue, in ash. My best friend Ezra found me in the ruins. He still won't tell me how he knew to look, but he pulled me out, wrapped me in blankets, and watched in horror as my burns healed in front of his eyes. As my scent changed from something ordinary into something that made every alpha within a mile radius turn their head. Phoenix Omega. The myths said we were born from tragedy, from fire, from death that refused to stick. I didn't believe in myths until I became one. Now I stood between the two alphas who destroyed my life, their hands gentle on my skin, their eyes filled with want and wonder, and something that looked dangerously close to reverence. They had no idea who I was, no memory of the Omega they'd left to burn. And when their backs were turned, when no one but the shadows could see, I smiled, cold, sharp, victorious. Let the game begin. The penthouse door clicked shut behind me, and I finally allowed myself to breathe. Drace and Kyron had insisted on escorting me all the way up, their presence filling the elevator with cedar wood and winter rain until I thought I might drown in it. They'd been perfect gentlemen, protective, attentive, everything an Omega was supposed to want from courting alphas. I'd smiled through all of it. Now, alone in the marble entryway of my penthouse, I pressed my back against the door and let that smile fall away like a discarded mask. "You're insane." Ezra's voice cut through the silence before I'd even fully registered he was there. My best friend stood in the living room, arms crossed, his expression caught somewhere between fury and fear. "Good evening to you too," I said, pushing off the door and heading toward the kitchen. My feet ached from standing in dress shoes for 3 hours. My face hurt from smiling. "Don't!" Ezra followed me, his footsteps sharp against polished floors. "Don't deflect. What the hell were you thinking?" I poured myself a glass of water, taking my time. The floor-to-ceiling windows behind me showcased the city lights below, glittering and distant. This penthouse had cost a fortune I'd earned by being exactly what powerful alphas wanted to see when they looked at a Phoenix Omega. Rare, beautiful, untouchable. Untouchable until I wanted something from them. "I was thinking," I said finally, turning to face Ezra, "that an opportunity presented itself." "An opportunity?" Ezra's voice climbed. "Cassian, Those are the Ashford twins, the same alphas who, I know who they are. The words came out sharper than intended. I set the glass down carefully. I know exactly who they are. Then why did you accept their proposal? That wasn't the plan. We were supposed to gather evidence first, expose them publicly, destroy their reputation before they ever knew what hit them. Ezra ran a hand through his dark hair, agitation rolling off him in waves. Not let them court you, not put yourself directly in their hands. I understood his fear. For 6 months, Ezra had been the only person who knew the truth. He'd pulled my burned body from the warehouse ruins away from everyone's eyes, watched me die and come back to life, held me through the nightmares that still woke me, gasping for air that didn't smell like smoke. He'd helped me build this new identity from nothing, taught me how to use my transformed scent to my advantage, how to walk into rooms full of predators and make them all kneel. The plan had always been revenge from a distance, safe, calculated, but plans changed. Destroying them from the outside would take years, I said quietly. Legal battles, investigations, evidence that could be buried or bought. The Ashfords have money and power. They'd survive. And this is better? Ezra demanded. This is certain. I met his gaze steadily. I'll be inside their world, their home, their lives. I'll learn every secret, every weakness, every crack in their perfect empire. And when I'm done, there won't be anything left to save. Ezra stared at me for a long moment. Then he exhaled slowly, shoulders sagging. You're really doing this. I am. What happens next? I'm moving in with them. The color drained from Ezra's face. When? Tomorrow. Maybe tonight if they have their way. They want to start the formal courtship immediately. I kept my voice level, clinical. Easier that way. This is what we wanted, Ezra. Access, trust, the chance to destroy them from within. This is dangerous. Ezra's voice dropped to something raw, afraid. Cassian, you're a Phoenix Omega. Do you understand what that means to alphas like them? I'm rare, powerful, a status symbol. You carry a red pearl in your core. The words hung between us like a death sentence. I'd almost forgotten, almost let myself believe the legend was just that, a legend. But Ezra's expression told me otherwise. The red pearl, he continued, his voice tight, is worth more than every asset the Ashford family owns combined. It's pure concentrated power. Alphas have killed for less. Entire packs have gone to war over the rumor of one. His hands clenched at his sides. What if that's what they want? What if they don't care about courting you at all? What if they're just waiting for the right moment to? They know I'm a Phoenix Omega, I said, but they don't know I'm their Phoenix, the one they created. And as long as they see me as a prize to win, instead of a ghost come back to haunt them, I'm safe. Ezra looked like he wanted to argue, to lock me in this penthouse and never let me leave. But he knew me too well. Promise me you'll be careful, he said finally. I promise. And if anything feels wrong, if they do anything that makes you think they know, I'll run, I'll disappear. You'll never see the Ashford twins again. The lie tasted bitter, but Ezra needed to hear it. He nodded slowly, tension bleeding from his shoulders. Okay. He managed a weak smile. So, the great Cassian Vale is moving into the Ashford estate. How does it feel? Ask me when I've burned it to the ground. The doorbell rang. We both froze. I glanced at the clock. Past midnight. Too late for visitors unless... It's them, I breathed. Ezra's eyes went wide. Already? I moved to the door, smoothing down my clothes, rebuilding my mask. When I opened it, both twins stood in the hallway, flanked by security carrying black boxes tied with silver ribbon. We couldn't wait until morning, Kieran said, his smile warm and just slightly sheepish. Traditional courting gifts. We hope you'll accept them. Drace's gaze moved past me, landing on Ezra with cool assessment. We're not interrupting? Not at all, I said smoothly. This is Ezra, my closest friend. Ezra stepped forward, extending his hand with a beta's confidence. I've heard a lot about the Ashford family. All good things, I hope, Kieran said, shaking his hand. Mostly. Ezra's smile didn't quite reach his eyes. Though I have to ask, there was a warehouse fire about 6 months ago. Rumors said it involved your family. What actually happened there? The air went still. Drace's expression didn't change, but something flickered behind his eyes. Kieran's smile faded by a fraction. Why do you ask? Drace's voice was silk over steel. Ezra shrugged. Curiosity. You know how people talk. Kieran exchanged a glance with his brother. Then he turned back to us, his expression grave. We've been investigating that fire ourselves. Someone's been spreading rumors that we were involved, that we ordered it. But we weren't even in the city that night. And Omega died in those flames. Someone innocent caught in the wrong place. My heart stopped. We want to find him, Drace continued, his gaze locking onto mine with an intensity that made my breath catch. We want to prove we had nothing to do with it. Clear our family name. Kieran stepped closer. Cassian, you have connections in the Omega community. People trust you. Would you help us find the truth? I agreed to help them find my own killer, and they led me to their home, like I was some ethereal savior. The Ashford estate sprawled across the hillside like a sleeping beast, all stone and glass and old money. Iron gates opened silently as the car carrying my belongings passed through, and I watched the city lights disappear behind us, swallowed by trees and distance. No going back now. Drace sat beside me in the back seat, his presence filling the space with cedar wood and winter rain. Kieran drove, his eyes meeting mine in the rearview mirror every few seconds, checking. Protective. They'd been like this since we left the penthouse. Attentive. Careful. Like I was something precious they were afraid to break. I wanted to hate how easily my body responded to their sense. How my instincts hummed with dangerous awareness every time one of them touched my hand or stood too close. Phoenix Omega instincts were supposed to be different, stronger, less vulnerable to alpha influence. I shouldn't be responding to their sense this easily, but it was. Your suite overlooks the gardens, Kieran said as we pulled up to the main house. Private entrance. Full security. You'll be safe here. Safe. The word tasted bitter. I smiled anyway. Thank you. I appreciate how thoughtful you've both been. Drace's hand found mine, his thumb brushing across my knuckles. We want you to feel at home. Home. As if I could ever feel at home in the house of the alphas who destroyed my life. The suite they'd prepared for me was 3 times the size of my penthouse. Floor-to-ceiling windows. A bedroom that could fit a pack. A bathroom with a tub large enough to drown in. Everything decorated in soft grays and whites, elegant and understated. Expensive. If you need anything, Kieran said, setting down the last of my bags. Our rooms are just down the hall. Don't hesitate. I won't, I lied. They lingered in the doorway, reluctant to leave. I could feel their eyes on me, cataloging every expression, every breath. Finally, Drace stepped forward. He moved slowly, telegraphing his intention, giving me time to refuse. When I didn't pull away, he reached up and brushed something from my hair. Ash. I'd stopped noticing it, the way ash clung to me sometimes, appearing from nowhere. A reminder of what I was, what I'd become. His fingers were gentle as he showed me the gray smudge on his thumb. You're trembling, he said quietly. I hadn't realized. Long night, I managed. Rest. His voice dropped lower, intimate. We'll be here when you wake. They left together, closing the door with a soft click that felt too much like a cage locking. I stood in the center of the suite, surrounded by luxury I'd bought with charm and manipulation, and felt the weight of it all pressing down on my chest. 6 months of planning, 6 months of building this new identity. And now I was here, in their home, playing a role I wasn't sure I could sustain. My phone buzzed. Ezra's name lit up the screen. I answered on the second ring. I'm in. Are you okay? His voice was tight with worry. Fine. The suite is nice. They're being perfect gentlemen. I walked to the window, staring out at manicured gardens bathed in moonlight. Almost too perfect. That's what worries me. A pause. Cassian, I've been digging into their alibi, the claim that they were in a different city the night of the fire. My fingers tightened on the phone. And I found the records, hotel reservation, security footage from the lobby. They checked in 2 days before the fire and didn't check out until 3 days after. Ezra's tone was careful, clinical. There was a major PAX summit that week, Hundreds of witnesses, media coverage, photographs. So they paid someone to fake their presence, use doubles. The Ashfords have enough money to... Cassian. Ezra cut me off gently. I found video of Drace giving a speech at the summit. 20 minutes long. Close-up footage. That wasn't a double. The room tilted. You're wrong, I said. You have to be wrong. I've cross-referenced everything, checked every source. The timeline doesn't work. They physically could not have been at that warehouse the night you burned. Then someone else gave the order. Someone in their family. Their father. Their pack. What if no one in their family gave the order? Ezra's voice went soft, dangerous. What if someone used their name? Their resources? What if the whole thing was designed to frame them? That's impossible. Is it? A beat of silence. Cassian, if they didn't do it, what are you doing there? The question hung between us like a blade. I couldn't answer. Couldn't breathe past the sudden tightness in my chest. I have to go, I said. Cassian. I ended the call. The phone slipped from my hand, landing on the plush carpet without sound. I pressed my palms against the cool glass of the window, trying to steady myself. They couldn't be innocent. They couldn't. Because if they were, then everything I'd built, everything I'd planned, every carefully constructed lie... A knock at the door shattered my spiral. I turned, forcing my expression neutral. Come in. Drace stepped inside, still dressed from earlier, his hair slightly disheveled like he'd been running his hands through it. I couldn't sleep, he said. Your scent is everywhere now, in the halls. The air. It's... He stopped, jaw tightening. I needed to make sure you were settled. He crossed the room slowly and I tracked every movement. Predator, alpha, dangerous, beautiful. I'm fine, I said. You don't look fine. He stopped an arm's length away, close enough that his scent wrapped around me. You look like you're fighting something. I'm just tired. Liar. The word was soft, almost affectionate. His gaze dropped to my hands, still pressed against the window, then lower, to my wrists. His expression changed. What's this? He reached out, his fingers circling my left wrist with impossible gentleness, tilting it toward the light. A scar, thin, white, barely visible unless you knew to look for it. The scar from metal biting into skin, from handcuffs locked too tight while I screamed and begged and burned. The scar that shouldn't have survived my rebirth, but did. Drace's thumb traced the mark, his touch reverent, questioning. How did you get this? He asked. I don't remember. The words came out steady, practiced. I'd rehearsed this moment in my head 1,000 times. The deflection, the mystery, the careful balance between truth and deception. Drace's thumb still traced the scar on my wrist, his touch impossibly gentle. You don't remember, he repeated slowly, like he was testing the weight of the words. The awakening. I pulled my hand back carefully, cradling it against my chest. It took some memories with it, fragments, pieces I can't get back. I met his gaze, letting vulnerability bleed into my expression. I'm sorry. I wish I could tell you more. His jaw tightened, but he nodded. Don't apologize, I shouldn't have pushed. Before the silence could stretch too long, the door opened without warning. Kieran stepped inside, a manila folder clutched in his hand. His expression grim. We need to talk. Drace turned. What is it? The fire. Kieran moved into the room, crossing to where we stood. I've been conducting my own investigation, quietly, and I found something. My heart kicked against my ribs. He opened the folder, pulling out a photograph. Grainy, black and white. A security camera still from outside the warehouse. This is the Omega who died, Kieran said, handing me the photo. I forced myself to look. The face staring back at me was a stranger's. Thin, haunted, hair longer than I wore it now. Features softened by poor nutrition and suppressants that had dulled everything about me, including my scent. That was me 6 months ago. But looking at the image now, I barely recognized myself. The Phoenix Awakening had changed everything, sharpened my features, brightened my eyes, transformed my entire presence into something magnetic and otherworldly. No one would connect this hollow-eyed Omega to the creature I'd become. His name was never released, Kieran continued. No family came forward. No one claimed the body. His voice dropped. It's like he didn't exist. Because I didn't. Not anymore. We need your help, Drace said, his attention fixed on me with an intensity that made my skin prickle. You have connections in the Omega community. People trust you. If anyone knew him, if there's any information about who he was or why he was there, we need to find the truth, Karen finished. Clear our names. Prove we weren't involved. The irony was suffocating. They were asking me to investigate my own death. I looked down at the photograph again, at the ghost I used to be, and felt something crack open in my chest. Rage, grief, a twisted sense of victory. I'll help, I said quietly. I'll ask around, see what I can find. Relief flooded Kyron's expression. Thank you. Dre stepped closer, his hand finding my shoulder. This means everything to us. You mean everything. The words should have felt like poison. Instead, they settled under my skin like a brand. I should let you rest, Kieran said, tucking the folder under his arm. It's late. We can start fresh in the morning. Drace hesitated, his gaze searching mine one more time before he followed his brother toward the door. They left together, trusting me completely. The door clicked shut. I stood alone in the center of the suite, the photograph still clutched in my hand, and let the mask fall away. My reflection stared back at me from the darkened window. Beautiful, powerful, unrecognizable. Everything I'd never been before, the fire turned me into this. I pulled out my phone, created a new anonymous account. Untraceable, disposable. My fingers moved across the screen with clinical precision, crafting the post that would destroy them. Breaking. The Ashford twins are actively searching for the Omega who died in their warehouse fire 6 months ago. Not to honor his memory, not to seek justice, but to silence anyone who knows the truth about how he died. They're using their wealth and influence to bury the evidence. Don't let them erase him. Share this. Demand answers. I attached a cropped version of the security photo, just enough to show an Omega had died, not enough to reveal details that could be traced back to the twins' private investigation. Then I hit post and watched. The first share came within 30 seconds, then 10 more, 100. Comments flooded in. Outrage, shock, demands for justice. Within an hour, the post had gone viral. The next day, news outlets picked it up. Omega rights groups amplified it. Hashtags trended across every platform. The Ashford name, pristine, powerful, untouchable, was being dragged through the mud in real time. I watched their stock prices drop on my phone, watched partnerships dissolve in public statements, watched protest groups organize outside their corporate headquarters. PAC members were calling for investigations. Police were being pressured to reopen the case. Everything I'd wanted, everything I'd planned, their world was burning. Just like mine had. I should have felt satisfied, vindicated, triumphant. Instead, I felt a knock at the door shattered my thoughts. I shoved my phone under a pillow and crossed the room, schooling my expression into neutrality. When I opened the door, Dre stood there. His phone was in his hand, screen glowing with notifications. His expression was unreadable, cold in a way I'd never seen before. Every line of his body radiated controlled fury. "We need to talk," he said quietly. My pulse stuttered. "About what?" I kept my voice steady. "This." He turned his phone toward me. My anonymous post filled the screen, shares climbing into the hundreds of thousands. This post, the one that's destroying everything we've built. I opened my mouth to respond, but he continued. "The IP address," Dre said, his voice dropping to something dangerous, "traces back to our estate network. Someone inside this house destroyed us tonight." He stepped closer. I couldn't tell if he knew it was me or if he was about to ask for my help finding the traitor. His eyes locked onto mine, storm gray and searching and devastatingly focused. "Cassian," he said softly, "I need you to tell me the truth." The air between us felt like glass about to shatter. "Do you know who did this?" I smiled like my heart wasn't racing. "Of course I know who did this." Drace went still, his entire body coiled with tension, waiting. It was probably one of your employees, I said softly, letting concern bleed into my voice. Someone with access to the estate network. Someone who knows enough about your family to weaponize it. His jaw tightened. You think someone inside betrayed us? Who else would have the access? I stepped closer, closing the distance between us with careful precision. Drace, you're under attack. Someone's trying to destroy you from within. Kieran appeared in the doorway behind his brother, drawn by our voices. What's going on? The post, Drace said, without looking away from me. It came from our network. Kieran's expression darkened. How is that possible? I turned to face them both, letting my sense shift just slightly. Distress, worry, the kind of emotional vulnerability that made alphas want to protect. That's what we need to figure out. But first, I paused, letting the weight of my next words settle. I need to ask you something. Anything, Kieran said immediately. An Omega died on your property 6 months ago. I kept my voice gentle, questioning. And you had no idea how it happened? No knowledge of what was going on in your own warehouse? The words landed like a blade. Drace's expression shifted, something cracking beneath the surface. We weren't in the city. We were at the summit. I know. I moved closer to Kieran now, my gaze searching his. But doesn't it bother you that someone could die on Ashford property and you wouldn't even know until months later? I let the implication hang between us. Are you really that disconnected from your own empire? Kieran flinched. We have managers, Drace said, but his voice lacked conviction. People we trust to handle. And one of those people just posted a lie that's destroying your reputation. I let that sink in. Maybe you've been trusting the wrong people. Silence stretched between us, heavy and suffocating. I watched them both wrestle with doubt, with the uncomfortable realization that their carefully constructed world had cracks they'd never noticed. We need to fix this, Kieran said finally. Issue a statement. Respond to the accusations. Deflection, I said immediately. Don't engage with the specifics. Offer transparency. Promise a full investigation. Show the public you're taking this seriously. Drace's gaze sharpened on me. You've done this before. I've survived in a world that wanted to consume me, I replied. You learn how to control narratives. Help us, Kieran said. Write the statement. You understand how Omegas think, what they need to hear. Perfect. I pulled out my phone, fingers moving across the screen with practiced ease, crafting words designed to sound sincere while saying nothing of substance. Corporate empathy, calculated vulnerability. The Ashford family deeply regrets the tragic loss of life that occurred on our property. We are committed to uncovering the truth and ensuring justice for the victim. We ask for patience as we conduct a thorough investigation with full transparency. I showed them the screen. Something like this, compassionate, accountable, but not admitting guilt. Drace read it twice. It's perfect. Omegas will respond to this, I assured them. Trust me? They did. The statement went live an hour later, and the world caught fire. Omega rights groups tore it apart within minutes, called it corporate doublespeak, accused them of using buzzwords to avoid real accountability. The outrage doubled, tripled. I watched from my suite as their empire crumbled faster than before. Then Drace's phone rang. I heard his voice from down the hall, sharp, defensive. The conversation lasted less than 5 minutes. When he and Kieran returned to my suite, they looked shattered. Our father, Kieran said quietly, he's threatening to cut us off, disown us, unless we fix this immediately. Drace's hands were shaking. I'd never seen him anything less than perfectly controlled. Now he looked broken. We don't know how to fix this, he admitted. Everything we do makes it worse. I crossed the room and took his hand. Come here. They both moved toward me like drowning men reaching for shore. I pulled them close, wrapping my arms around Drace while Kieran pressed against my back. Surrounding me was cedar wood and winter rain and desperation. This isn't your fault, I whispered. None of it. You're being targeted by someone who wants to destroy you. But you're not alone. Drace's forehead dropped to my shoulder. I don't understand why this is happening. Because you're powerful, I said softly, and power makes enemies. Kieran's hand found mine, squeezing tight. Thank you for staying, for not running when everything fell apart. I'm not going anywhere, I lied. Drace pulled back just enough to look at me, his storm gray eyes searching mine with an intensity that made my breath catch. Then he kissed me, soft at first, tentative, like he was asking permission. I gave it, deepened the kiss until his control shattered, and he pulled me closer, one hand tangling in my hair while the other gripped my waist like I was the only solid thing left in his world. Kieran's lips found my neck, trailing heat across my skin, his breath ragged. They touched me like I was salvation, like I was the answer to every question that had been tearing them apart. I kissed them back with calculated passion, letting them drown in the illusion that I was theirs. Let them fall completely, because the harder they fell, the more devastating it would be when I walked away from the ruins. Hours later, they fell asleep tangled around me, exhausted from emotion and intimacy and the weight of their crumbling world. I watched them sleep, Drace's arm across my waist, Kieran's head on my shoulder. They looked peaceful, trusting, foolish. My phone buzzed silently against the nightstand. Ezra's name flashed across the screen. I slipped carefully from between them, padding across the suite to the balcony, where the night air was cold and sharp. Tell me you have something against those brutal twin killers, I whispered into the phone. I have something, Ezra said, his voice tight with urgency. I seduced one of their guards, someone who was working for them 6 months ago. My pulse kicked. And there was someone else giving orders that night, not the twins. Someone from the Ashford family, but a floorboard creaked behind me. I turned. Drace and Kieran stood in the doorway, both wide awake, their expressions carved from devastation. They'd heard everything. I should have run the moment I saw them, but I didn't. I stood frozen on the balcony, phone pressed to my ear, Ezra's voice still filtering through the speaker with information that suddenly didn't matter anymore, because Drace and Kieran were staring at me like I'd just ripped their hearts out with my bare hands. Cassian? Ezra's voice crackled through the line. Are you still there? Did you hear what I said? There was someone else. What was that? Drace's voice cut through the night air like broken glass. I lowered the phone slowly. My thumb found the end call button. Pressed. Silence crashed down around us. Kieran stepped onto the balcony, his expression shattered. Who were you talking to? My mind raced. Lie, deflect. Anything to buy time. A friend, I said carefully. Someone who's been helping me investigate. Investigate what? Drace moved closer, each step deliberate. Predatory. The fire? The Omega who died? His voice dropped to something dangerous. Or us. The air between us felt like it was vibrating with tension, with the truth neither of us had spoken yet. You heard about the Ashford family connection, I tried, forcing my voice steady. Someone else was giving orders that night. Someone who... Don't... Kieran's voice cracked. Don't try to redirect this. He looked at me like I was breaking him in real time. Was any of it real? He asked quietly. Tonight. The kisses. The way you held us like we mattered. His hands clenched at his sides. Or was it all part of whatever game you're playing? Guilt twisted in my chest. Unexpected. Unwanted. I shoved it down. I don't know what you think you heard. We heard enough. Drace's expression had gone cold. Empty. You've been lying to us from the beginning. Using us. That's not... The anonymous post. His voice was barely above a whisper, but it hit harder than a shout. It was you, wasn't it? My silence was answer enough. Kieran made a sound like he'd been punched. Why? Why would you do this to us? Because you killed me, I wanted to scream. Because you left me to burn and didn't even have the decency to remember. But the words stuck in my throat. Because looking at them now, at the genuine confusion and hurt bleeding across their faces, I couldn't hold on to the certainty that had sustained me for 6 months. Drace took another step forward. Answer him. You don't understand? Then make us understand. Kieran's voice rose. Make us understand why you came into our lives, made us care about you, made us think. He stopped, swallowing hard. Make us understand why you're trying to destroy us. Because you deserve it, I said, and the words came out sharp, raw. Drace went very still. What did we do to you? Everything. Nothing. I didn't know anymore. You're Ashford's, I said instead. That's enough. That's not an answer. Kieran's hands were shaking now. Cassian, please, just tell us the truth. Whatever we did, whatever you think we did, I don't think anything. My voice was rising now, control slipping. I know. I was at the warehouse. I saw. I caught myself too late. The realization hit Drace first. His eyes widened, storm gray irises going sharp with sudden understanding. You were there, he repeated slowly, at the warehouse. Run. Every instinct screamed it. I bolted, threw myself past Kieran, through the suite, my bare feet silent on marble floors as I sprinted for the door. Behind me, I heard them both move. Cassian, wait! Kieran's voice. I didn't wait. I burst into the hallway, racing past closed doors and expensive art, and the trappings of a world I'd never belonged to. The estate was massive, labyrinthine. I went down the servants' staircase, or through the east wing, toward the rear entrance that led to the gardens. Footsteps pounded behind me, heavy, fast, too fast. Alpha speed and endurance versus omega desperation. I wasn't going to make it. Stop running! Drace's voice echoed through the halls. I pushed harder, lungs burning, heart slamming against my ribs. The main foyer appeared ahead, grand, open, the front entrance just beyond, almost there. Drace appeared from a side corridor, cutting me off completely. I skidded to a halt, spinning to run the other direction. Kieran stepped out from the opposite hallway, trapped. I backed toward the center of the foyer, both twins closing in from either side. They weren't running anymore, just walking, deliberate, inevitable. Predators who'd cornered their prey. Enough, Drace said quietly. My back hit the wall. No more room to retreat. They stopped a few feet away, close enough that their scents wrapped around me. Cedar wood and winter rain mixing with my smoke and wildfire until the air felt thick with it. No more running, Kieran said. His voice was gentler than his brother's, but no less firm. No more lies. I lifted my chin, meeting their gazes with defiance I barely felt. You want the truth? Fine. Let it all burn. Your family destroyed my life, I said, words coming fast and sharp. Your warehouse, your fire, your orders. My voice cracked. I died in those flames, died screaming while you... I stopped, realized what I just said. The silence that followed was deafening. Kieran's face had gone pale. What did you say? You couldn't have, Drace breathed. The Omega who died. We saw the photo. He looked nothing like... Like this? I gestured to myself. Like someone beautiful and powerful and rare? Bitterness flooded my voice. That's what happens when you burn to death and come back wrong. When the fire remakes you into something the world can't ignore. Understanding crashed across both their faces. Horror, disbelief, recognition. The scar on your wrist, Drace whispered. The memories you couldn't remember. The way you knew. He took a shaking breath. You're him. You're the Omega from the warehouse. My name was Cassian then too, I said. You just never bothered to ask it before you killed me. Kieran looked like he was going to be sick. Drace took a step forward, his hand reaching toward me like he was trying to touch something that might disappear. Don't touch me. I slapped his hand away, the sound echoing through the foyer like a gunshot. Drace pulled back, jaw clenched, but the hurt in his eyes was unmistakable. You want to know what happened? My voice came out sharp, vicious. I burned. I screamed until my throat was raw and my lungs filled with smoke. I clawed at locked doors while the fire ate through my skin. I stepped closer, forcing them to see, to hear. And when I finally died, when everything went black, I thought it was over. Kieran's face had gone pale, but it wasn't. I laughed and it sounded broken. 3 days later, I woke up in ash, remade, reborn into something your family created. I spread my arms. So yes, I died in your fire, and I came back for one reason. Cassian, Kieran started, to destroy you. The words came out cold, final. So go ahead. Finish what you started. Kill me. I moved closer until I was inches from Drace's chest. Because even if you do, I'll come back. 1,000 times. 1,000,000. I'll crawl out of death itself just to watch everything you love burn the way I did. Silence stretched between us like a chasm. Then Drace's expression shifted. The rage melted into something softer, more devastating. Pain. We didn't do this to you, he said quietly. Liar. We weren't there. His voice broke. Cassian, we weren't even in the city that night. We have proof, witnesses, video footage from the summit. Fake, I spat. Bought, fabricated. You're Ashford's. You have the money to... Your friend just confirmed it, Kieran interrupted gently. On the phone. He said someone else gave the orders. Someone from our family, but not us. The words landed like ice water. I opened my mouth, closed it. We didn't know, Drace continued. We didn't know an Omega died in our warehouse. Didn't know someone used our name, our resources, our property to commit murder. His hands clenched at his sides. But we're going to find out who did. Why should I believe you? My voice came out smaller than I intended. Because we're begging you to, Kieran said. We can't change what happened to you, can't take back the pain. But we can find the truth, together. I stared at them both, searching for the lie, the manipulation, found only desperation and something that looked dangerously close to... The main doors exploded open. Armed guards flooded the foyer like a strike force. 10, 12, all wearing Ashford security uniforms, but moving with military precision. Real weapons, not the standard estate security gear. Guns. What the hell is this? Drace turned, authority bleeding into his voice. Stand down. That's an order. 2 guards grabbed him from behind before he could move, wrenched his arms back with brutal efficiency. Get off, Drace struggled, but 3 more guards converged, forcing him still. Kieran lunged forward. Let him go! 5 guards swarmed him, slammed him to his knees, pressed gun barrels to his temple and spine until he froze, chest heaving with barely controlled rage. More guards closed in on me. I tried to run, hands locked around my arms. My waist lifted me off the ground as I thrashed and screamed. No! Let me go! Cassian! Drace's voice was feral, desperate. He fought against the guards holding him, muscle straining. Don't touch him! A gun pressed to his forehead. He went still. Move again, the guard said flatly. And I put a bullet in your twin. Kieran was surrounded by weapons, his eyes locked on me with pure terror. Please, don't hurt him. The guards ignored them both. I was being dragged backward, toward the door, away from the twins whose faces were etched with panic and something that looked too much like love. We work for you, Drace snarled at the guards. You take orders from us. Not anymore, one of them replied coldly. Drace, Kieran. I didn't mean to scream their names. Didn't mean to sound afraid, but I was. Drace's eyes found mine across the foyer. I'll find you. I swear. We'll... A guard slammed the butt of a rifle into his stomach. Drace doubled over, gasping. No! The word ripped out of me. Kieran tried to surge forward. 3 guns clicked in unison, all trained on his head. He stopped. I was hauled through the doors. Into the night. Cool air hit my skin as they dragged me down the estate steps toward a black car idling in the circular drive. I fought every step, kicked, clawed, screamed. It didn't matter. They threw me into the back seat. The door slammed shut. I lunged for the handle. Locked. My breath came in ragged gasps as I spun around, searching for escape. The windows were tinted. Bulletproof glass separated me from the front seats. A cage. Then I saw him, sitting in the shadows on the opposite seat. Perfectly still, perfectly calm. The Ashford patriarch, older than his sons by decades. Silver threading through dark hair, eyes the same storm gray as Drace's, but colder, sharper. A predator who'd spent a lifetime learning exactly how to tear prey apart. He looked at me the way a collector looked at a rare specimen. Something valuable, breakable. Mine. The car pulled away from the estate, away from Drace and Kieran's screams still echoing behind us. The father smiled slowly. Welcome, Phoenix Omega, he said, his voice smooth as poison. I've been waiting for you for 6 months. He smiled like he'd already won. Would you like some wine? The Ashford patriarch reached for a crystal decanter built into the car's side panel, movements leisurely, unhurried. It's a 1982 Bordeaux, quite exquisite. I stared at him, at the monster wearing expensive cologne and a tailored suit, at the face that carried echoes of Drace and Chiron, but twisted into something colder, crueler. He poured two glasses, the wine catching the dim interior light like blood. "What the hell are you doing?" I demanded. He extended a glass toward me. "Celebrating, of course." I slapped it out of his hand. Wine exploded across white leather seats, glass shattering against the floor. Red liquid spreading like a wound. His smile never faltered. "Temper," he said mildly, setting his own glass down. "You'll need to control that. Get used to my presence. Learn some respect." He leaned back, crossing one leg over the other. "After all, I created you." "You didn't create anything," I spat. "I became this on my own. Survived on my own." He laughed. The sound filled the car, rich and genuinely amused, like I'd just told the funniest joke he'd heard in years. "Is that what you think?" He wiped at his eyes. "Oh, that's precious. Tell me, Cassian, do you really believe the heavens blessed you? That fate chose a worthless little Omega and turned him into something magnificent?" Worthless. The word hit like a physical blow. "I found you," he continued, his tone shifting to something clinical, educational. 6 months and 3 days ago, a nobody working in a warehouse, barely scraping by on suppressants and poverty wages. Unremarkable in every way. His gaze traveled over me slowly. But you had potential. The right bloodline buried deep. The right desperation. The right circumstances to become exactly what I needed. My pulse was thunder in my ears. "What are you talking about?" "The door to the restricted archive," he said. "The one you stumbled through that night. Do you think that was an accident?" He smiled. "I had it left open specifically for you. Made sure you'd be working late. Made sure you'd be curious enough to look." "No. The weapons. The documents with my family crest." He waved a hand dismissively. "All staged. Bait to make you run. To make you a witness who needed to be silenced." "You're lying." "Am I?" He pulled out his phone, swiping through it with casual grace. Then he turned the screen toward me. Security footage. Black and white. Timestamped 6 months ago. Me walking through the warehouse. Stopping at a door that shouldn't have been open. Looking around nervously before stepping inside. And in the corner of the frame, a figure in the shadows. Watching. Waiting. "I orchestrated everything," the father said softly. "The fire wasn't meant to destroy evidence. It was meant to destroy you. Specifically. Precisely." His eyes glittered. "While you burned, while you screamed and died, I performed the ritual." "What ritual?" "The Phoenix transformation." He said it like it was obvious, simple. "An ancient practice, forbidden for centuries. It requires a willing sacrifice, though willing is such a flexible term, and very specific conditions. Fire, death, agony." He leaned forward. "And 6 months of careful cultivation while the body rebuilds itself from ash." I couldn't breathe. "I watched you die," he continued. "Watched you burn. And then I worked the ritual while your body was still smoking. Bound your essence to flame and rebirth. Made you into something the world hadn't seen in generations." "Why?" The word came out broken. "Because I needed a Phoenix Omega," he said simply. "And you were convenient." Bile rose in my throat. "I waited," he continued. "Monitored your transformation from a distance. Watched my creation wake up and stumble into the world. Confused and powerful and perfect." His smile widened. "Then I nudged my sons toward that gala. Made sure they'd see you. Made sure they'd be captivated. The proposal was their idea, but I knew they'd make it." He laughed again. "I know my boys. Predictable, emotional, so easy to manipulate. You use them." Rage flooded through me, hot and sharp. "Your own sons. You set them up to take the fall for everything you did." "They'll survive," he said dismissively. "Their reputations will recover eventually. The Ashford name is resilient. You don't care about them at all. I care about results." His expression went cold. "They serve their purpose. Got you close, made you trust, made you vulnerable. He gestured to me. And here you are. I didn't expect your little revenge scheme, I'll admit, he continued. That was creative, destructive, almost impressive. His jaw tightened. But ultimately futile. I lunged at him, threw myself across the car, hands reaching for his throat, wanting to feel bone crack under my fingers. He moved faster than I expected. His fist connected with my ribs. Hard, professional. I gasped, pain exploding through my side as I fell back against the seat. Careful, he warned. I made you. I can unmake you just as easily. The car slowed, stopped. I looked out the window through tears of pain and rage. We weren't at the estate anymore. We were somewhere isolated, industrial, a building with no windows, no signs, just cold concrete and steel, a laboratory. The door opened. Guards reached in, hauling me out before I could fight back. The father stepped out behind me, straightening his suit jacket. Your sharp mouth has earned you suffering, he said calmly. But don't worry, it won't last long. He nodded to the building, just long enough for the extraction. Extraction? I struggled against the guard's grip. He smiled. The red pearl, Cassian. The concentrated core of power that sits inside every Phoenix Omega. His eyes glittered with greed. The sole reason I orchestrated everything. Your death, your rebirth, your entire existence. He stepped closer, voice dropping to something intimate, possessive. I'm going to cut it out of you. They strapped me to a metal table under lights so bright they burned my eyes even when I closed them. Cold air bit at my skin, sterile, clinical, the kind of place where screaming didn't matter because no one would hear or care. The Ashford patriarch stood beside me, pulling on surgical gloves with methodical precision. No mask, no concern for contamination. This wasn't about sterility. This was about ownership. The red pearl sits at the very center of a Phoenix Omega's core, he said conversationally, like he was teaching a class. Extracting it requires precision, and unfortunately for you, anesthesia interferes with the process. He smiled down at me. You'll be awake for all of it. I pulled against the restraints. Metal bit into my wrists and ankles. Unbreakable. Let me go, I snarled. Soon enough. He picked up a scalpel, inspecting the blade. Once I have what I came for, you're free to leave. What's left of you anyway. A guard adjusted the table, tilting it upright just enough that I could see everything. The instruments, the monitors, the father's face as he positioned the blade over my chest, right above my heart. This will hurt, he said. Quite a lot, actually. The scalpel pressed down. Pain exploded through me like nothing I'd ever felt. Not the warehouse fire, not burning alive. This was different. Deeper. Like someone was reaching into the very essence of what I was and tearing it apart from the inside. I screamed until my throat was raw. The father worked with clinical detachment, cutting through skin and muscle with surgical precision. Blood ran down my chest in hot streams. My vision blurred, darkened at the edges. But I stayed conscious, forced to feel every second. Something shifted inside me, a warmth building in my core, growing hotter, angrier. The father paused, frowning at the monitors. Your temperature is spiking. That's unexpected. The warmth became heat. The heat became fire. Flames erupted from my skin without warning. Wild, furious, burning hotter than anything I'd felt since my rebirth. They consumed the restraints in seconds, metal glowing red before snapping like thread. I fell forward off the table, hitting the floor hard enough to crack tile. The father stumbled backward. Impossible. You shouldn't be able to manifest this level of power without a bonding. I rose to my feet, flames dancing across my arms, my chest wrapping around me like living armor. The pain from the incision was already fading. Phoenix healing, knitting flesh back together, even as fire poured from the wound. Guards rushed forward with weapons raised. I threw my hand out on instinct. Fire shot from my palm like a weapon, slamming into the first guard and hurling him across the room. His uniform caught fire. He rolled, screaming, trying to extinguish flames that wouldn't die. The others froze. "Stand down," the father barked. "Don't let him—" I turned on him. He saw his death in my eyes. "You made me this," I said, and my voice didn't sound like mine anymore. It sounded like crackling fire and burning rage and 6 months of agony given form. "Now live with what you created." I lunged. He ran. Not fast enough. I caught him by the collar, flames spreading from my hands to his expensive suit jacket. He screamed, batting at the fire, terror replacing his earlier confidence. "Please," he gasped. "I made you powerful, special. You should be grateful." I slammed him against the wall, fire burning between my fingers and his throat. "You killed me, tortured me, used your own sons as pawns." Smoke rose from where my hand pressed against his skin. "And you want gratitude?" His eyes were wide, actually afraid. Good. The lab doors exploded inward. Drace and Kieran burst through like avenging angels, followed by Ezra, police officers, and people with cameras. Media, witnesses. Everyone froze. I stood there, wreathed in flames that licked at the ceiling, holding their father by the throat while he choked and pleaded and burned. "Cassian," Drace's voice cut through the chaos. Careful, gentle. "Let him go." "Why?" I didn't look away from the patriarch's terrified face. "He deserves to burn, to feel exactly what I felt." "He does," Kieran agreed, moving closer despite the heat radiating from my body. "But not like this. Not by your hand. He killed me. We know." Drace stepped through flames that parted around him like they recognized something in his scent. "Ezra told us everything. We have evidence, recordings, witnesses." His hand reached for mine. "Let the world see what he is. Let him face justice the right way." "Justice won't bring me back." "No." His fingers wrapped around my wrist with impossible gentleness despite the fire. "But revenge won't either. It'll just make you into him." The words hit harder than any blade. I looked at the father, at the fear in his eyes, the burns on his skin, the pathetic whimpering of a man who'd orchestrated murder and called it creation. He wasn't worth it. I let go. The patriarch collapsed, coughing and gasping. Police swarmed him immediately, pulling him away from me, reading rights I couldn't hear over the blood rushing in my ears. The flames died. Exhaustion slammed into me like a physical blow. My legs buckled. Kieran caught me before I hit the ground, his arms wrapping around me as the last of my strength gave out. "I've got you." "Don't." I tried to push away. "Don't touch me." He held on anyway, lowering us both to the floor. Not letting go. Ezra dropped to his knees beside us, his face pale but eyes fierce. "We recorded everything. His confession about the ritual, the murder, all of it." He held up his phone, screen cracked but functional. "The twins are releasing it right now. The whole world will know what he did." I watched through blurred vision as Drace typed rapidly on his phone, uploading files, tagging every major news outlet, destroying his own father with the truth. The Ashford patriarch screamed as officers dragged him toward the exit, hands cuffed behind his back. "You'll regret this. Both of you. I'm your father. I gave you everything." "You're a monster," Drace said without looking up from his phone. "And you're done." The screaming faded as they hauled him away. Silence fell, broken only by my ragged breathing and the cooling metal around us. Kieran's hand pressed against my chest where the incision was still healing, his touch gentle over new skin. "Hospital. You need—" "I'm fine." "You're not fine." Drace knelt beside us, his storm gray eyes scanning me for injuries. "Cassian, he almost— I can't be with you." The words came out quiet, final. They both went still. "I don't love you," I continued, forcing myself to meet their gazes. "Everything I did, everything I said, it was manipulation, revenge. I wanted to destroy you." My voice cracked. "And I almost did." Kieran's arms tightened around me. "I know." "Then let me go." "No." The word was soft but absolute. "You should hate me." "Probably," Drace agreed. "But we don't." "What we feel is real," Kieran said quietly. "Even if what you felt wasn't, even if it never becomes real." His hand found mine, threading our fingers together. "We'll wait." "For what?" I couldn't keep the disbelief from my voice. For you to heal, Drace's thumb brushed across my knuckles. For you to decide what you want. For however long it takes. That's insane. Maybe. Kieran smiled, sad and hopeful and devastating. But you're worth waiting for. I didn't know what to say. Didn't know if I'd ever be able to love them. Didn't know if the pull I felt was real or just echoes of my own deception turning back on me. Didn't know anything except that I was tired of burning. Ezra's hand settled on my shoulder. Let's get you out of here. They helped me stand. The twins on either side supporting my weight, Ezra steadying me from behind. We walked out of the lab together into dawn breaking across the horizon. Pink and gold light spilling over a world that looked exactly the same, but felt entirely different. The Ashford Empire would rebuild. The truth was spreading like wildfire across every platform. Justice would come. And somewhere in the ruins of everything we'd destroyed, something fragile and uncertain remained. Not love, not yet, but possibility. Drace's hand tightened around mine as we stepped into the light. Maybe that was enough. For now. The end. If this story pulled at your heart, don't let it end here. Cassian rose from ashes, but his journey to healing has only just begun. The twins are waiting. The truth is out. But can love bloom from betrayal? Can forgiveness be earned after so much pain? What do you think happens next? Should Cassian give them a chance or walk away forever? Drop your thoughts in the comments. I read every single one. And if you felt Cassian's rage, his pain, his fire, hit that like button and subscribe so you never miss what happens when a Phoenix Omega decides whether revenge or redemption will define him. Because some wounds run deeper than scars, some fires never really go out. See you in the next story.